Hello and welcome to Talk the Walk. I'm Azam Khan. The International Monetary Fund has said Hong Kong is making a strong recovery thus far, navigating through multiple shocks from recent years, backed by strong fiscal policies. It also praised the city's financial system and buffers, but still gave caution to the wind regarding looming troubles in the global banking sector, as well as rising inflation. Hong Kong is a distinctly business-led city, where sector leaders play a key role in driving the city's vitality and collaborate closely with the public sector to embetter economic policy. Will the city keep on track to attaining the 3.1% growth forecast for next year, given external global uncertainties? And how will Hong Kong's lure as a destination for global business and talent progress as the city continues to strive to balance between recovery and long-term growth? Joining me today to unpack the topic is Dr. Anne Kerr, Chair of the British Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. She is also the Managing Director, Greater China at Mott MacDonald, a global engineering, management, and development consultancy firm. Dr. Kerr, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you very much indeed, Azam. I'm delighted to be here.
Zheng Yanxiong, the newly appointed Director of the Hong Kong Liaison Office in Hong Kong, recently stressed the importance of the city to act as a super connector to the world. So I wanted to get your thoughts on how that would look like versus Hong Kong's historic role as a connector.
So I think Hong Kong has for a long time enjoyed a prominent position in terms of global exposure. We have very well planned and very well executed and established infrastructure, which is cutting edge and innovative in so many ways. This has been adopted actually in many places overseas, but trialled and initiated here in Hong Kong. We've got an established business environment, we've got a legal system which is very strong, we've got skilled manpower, we've got talented workforce, and importantly, we remain a connection point for China mainland and the rest of the world. So recently, I heard the phrase stated from a conference that Hong Kong remains the most international city in China mainland as a whole, in the whole of China. And it's also the most Chinese city in terms of world cities in the rest of the world. So I actually think that that tells us everything, and that really resonates with me because that means that Hong Kong has a very strong position to remain as the interconnector, the super connector, as it were, for both China market as well as the rest of the world. So I think that that's actually very, very important. The Chamber thinks that Hong Kong will continue to deliver excellent works and services. It will continue to offer compelling platforms for businesses to operate and invest in. And more increasingly, it will become more relevant in terms of the wider offering in terms of the GBA. So everyone is talking about the Greater Bay Area. So that is a really important point, I think, to exchange information, people, goods, capital, and further enable Hong Kong and the mainland to connect and act as the facilitator. And so therefore, Hong Kong's role as the connector or super connector actually remains very, very strong and very well intact, I believe.
Yeah, I understand that you heard him deliver the speech at the forum organized by our Hong Kong Foundation. What else resonated with you specifically from what the director said?
So he actually said a lot of things that I thought were very interesting, and he talked a lot about modernisation and opportunities for Hong Kong in terms of Chinese modernisation. But he also urged Hong Kong to remember that we have been tasked with an even more important role and mission than ever before in our history, and that is that we should be remembering our position. We should also be thinking about Hong Kong maintaining its characteristics of the fusion of Eastern and Western cultures. I found this quite interesting because I thought that really aligned with our thinking of this fusion of the places and the people and the connections. And moreover, he actually made a quote in his speech which I thought was very, very nice. He said, "Keep horse racing," which I did last night. "Keep dancing," perhaps tomorrow night. "Investing in stocks, speaking foreign languages, and having foreign names to take the road of internationalisation." So this internationalisation theme keeps coming through in the speeches that I'm hearing more and more frequently. And it affirms Hong Kong's long-held cultural tolerance. And the cultural tolerance quality of Hong Kong is really, really crucial because it maintains our position for global talent, investors and consumers if we maintain a culturally tolerant society. and an embracing and inclusive society. I found, and the Chamber found, that the speech is very encouraging and very, very interesting, because Hong Kong is not only a place for business, because we all think about Hong Kong being the business centre, but it's also crucial that we keep our cultural elements intact and that connection between the world and the mainland. And cultural relevance, I think, is a really important facet of society, because this is what makes life fascinating. This is what actually adds to our life, because we don't just want to do business, but we want to have a very fulfilling life and engage with many different people and places. The director also mentioned Hong Kong has a very good legal system, which I think needs to be respected, because this is critical for business. And at the Chamber, we believe that a good legal system is very important for business, because it gives confidence to the markets, both internally and externally. And that will permit Hong Kong to thrive as an international centre.
Right, and infrastructure development, I want to talk about that a little bit, and I know that's a big area of expertise of what you work in, and there are very few regions in the world that have experienced growth in infrastructure development than the Greater Bay Area. So I just wanted to share a little bit about, if you could share a little bit about the direction of the region's growth in that regard.
So the Greater Bay Area, or the GBA as it is more commonly called, has been around for a very long time. Of course, it's established for a very long time in terms of its connections and so forth. But in terms of the role of the GBA as the interconnector and the superconnector of all the cities and the peoples, I think that is much more clear these days than it was, say, 20 years ago, when it was called the Pearl River Delta, for example. And of course, we've got a 20-year plan. So the 20-year plan is very, very clearly stating what activities will take part in and take place in the different places. And also that is giving a huge opportunity for connections of people and places. It gives us the opportunity whereby we have in Hong Kong a population of just under 8 million. So if you look at our backyard and the whole of the GBA in context, that's about 10 times that size in terms of population. It's obvious that there's a lot of opportunity there. It's obvious that there are many areas where we can actually develop our international businesses, put them into a context of a wider area for development, and also looking at this in the context of where does Hong Kong sit? It sits right at the heart and centre. It's there for us to take advantage of the opportunities. So last year, our summit for the Chamber of Commerce focused on infrastructure, and we, of course, talked about the GBA and the context of the GBA. We've had many, many webinars, we've run many workshops, and we've had symposia to explore opportunities. But what we haven't been able to do for the last 2 or 3 years is, of course, go see for ourselves. So now that the borders are opening up, and now that there are no restrictions and there's no quarantine and so forth, I think it's a case of go, look, see, and find out.
That's the new goal now, is to be able to go and see it more and go.
Precisely, and there are missions and work parties going on a very regular basis, both ways, both to Hong Kong.
What's the familiarity, generally the sentiment in the UK about the Greater Bay Area? Do they know about it? Is it something that you guys are working on to try and educate more?
So I think in the UK there are some people who know about it, but they don't know very much about it, and I think we have a lot of work to do, actually, because I think we have some work to share the opportunities, to explain what are the opportunities. And I think a lot of people are thinking about the past, where it was very difficult to do work if you were based in Hong Kong. How could you work as a lawyer, for example, in the Greater Bay Area?
There were no channels, there were no platforms to integrate.
And also for licensing, so for professional qualifications, but these have all been smoothed. And these pathways are smooth. So what we're doing with the Chamber is going and talking and sharing our ideas, sharing what we see, what are the opportunities that we see, and also trying to get people to come and see for themselves, take a look and find out.
Right. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the talent gap in the growth market in Hong Kong, in the job market, excuse me. Do you see this as a major hindrance going forward? And what are some solutions you or the Chamber would suggest to help tackle this in the city?
So the talent discussions are discussions that are happening at every single conversation that you have. Everybody's talking about it. But I think there are some really good initiatives going on at the moment through many different channels. But from our perspective, from the business community. We're going and we're using members who are going to other places, particularly UK or Australia or the US, and talking about the opportunities that we have here in Hong Kong. We're talking about the pipeline of projects. We're talking about the clarity of the pipeline that we can see for the next 10 years for development, for infrastructure and so forth. And we're sharing these opportunities and sharing the excitement that we have here in terms of it's not a completely finished, developed and packaged city. Cities always move, cities always evolve, and business always evolves, so take advantage of it. We were thinking a lot about this at the Chamber of Commerce because many of our members are talking about challenges in attracting talent, and Hong Kong has always been a very interesting place where people have moved, they have come, they've gone, and that is what makes it very dynamic and it makes it very interesting. But if we are in the situation whereby we've got lots of opportunities, lots of things to do, and not enough people to do the work, then what do we do? So one of the things that we thought we could do in the Chamber was to set up a working group. So we've got a working group from HR professionals and from talent and search professionals and recruitment agencies, etc., and also some of our other key stakeholders. So we're looking at that and we're looking to see what can we do outside of Hong Kong. So it's actually a global challenge. So we have and particularly I refer back again to my own personal experience in my professional life, we've got some real challenges in infrastructure, in the opportunities, because there are so many opportunities around the globe. So if you have a chance and an opportunity to go to one of 20 different places, that's quite an appealing situation. We've got many fantastic pieces of infrastructure that are being built or are being planned to be delivered in the next 10 years. So there are too many projects in the world for the number of people who are prepared to move. So one of the things that we have to do then is look and see what we can do in terms of working differently as well. Is there a way that we can do work in a different fashion? Are we able to work collectively, with people from other places, both remotely and also attract them to come to the city? And then I think actually one of the things is to make people understand and recognise that Hong Kong has actually got a fantastic living and working and playing culture, actually, because it's not just about working, it's not just about having fun, it's about that great combination and that great international melting pot and entrepot that we see. So there are solutions that we have, which are including the marketing campaigns to promote Hong Kong to young graduates. So we are going into the universities in other places. We're going into the universities through the alumni associations and trying to share with them what are the benefits of coming here and living here and what type of projects they could get. Government, of course, has also got quite a lot of schemes that we're trying to make sure they understand these schemes are available. There are lots of campaigns as well to attract people to come in, which were not available in the past. So basically what we're trying to do is make sure people understand what the opportunities are.
Dr. Kerr, I wanted to pause you right there while we go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back with Dr. Anne Kerr. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk the Walk. I'm speaking to Dr. Anne Kerr, Chair of the British Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. Dr. Kerr, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the historic significance of the British Chamber of Commerce's role in Hong Kong and its impact.
So the Chamber of Commerce was established more than 30 years ago in Hong Kong, and it is one of the British Chambers of Commerce overseas. There are many Chambers of Commerce in Britain, as I have found out, but there are none so important, I think, as the one in Hong Kong, because it's been very well established and it also is quite impactful in what it does. So it's been around, as I say, for this length of time. It does a lot of very good work in terms of advocacy and policy work. We do a lot of work, and increasingly we have done a lot of work over the last few years in terms of providing inputs to public consultations and so forth, because we have a lot of members. We've got a very diverse platform of members as well, where they can provide their inputs and their comments and their thoughts about business and opportunities for developing business and the economic imperative for Hong Kong. So allows us to come together rather than talking about a position from our own personal company or corporate perspective. It allows us to come together as one voice, collectively.
Right, and now that the city's reopened, can you share a little bit about the plans for the upcoming year? You mentioned already that you guys are going to go into the Greater Bay Area more and try to and be part of the physical viewing of that. But what are the other things on the agenda for the Chamber?
So we have never stopped. Very, very clearly, over the last 3 years, we did a lot of things in terms, however we could, but we used a lot of webinars and Zoom and all sorts of technology like that. But now we're actually going in person to do events. So we're gathering together. We're still doing a lot of networking. We're also looking to do trade missions and to go into the Greater Bay Area to explore opportunities. We've got a few pillars on the Chamber agenda and the platform, and one is, of course, the Hong Kong rebound. So we're looking at how we can support Hong Kong rebound, and we were part of a film for the Tourism Commission with Hello Hong Kong. And we were very pleased to do that, actually, because that was part of the business imperative to let people know that Hong Kong is open for business and there's lots to do. You can actually have fun as well, so it's a great playground. But we're also looking at doing events around Hong Kong as an international finance centre, and it's a very important part that it has to play in terms of ESG and green finance. We're looking at focusing on creative industries a lot more because we've got some fantastic opportunities here in Hong Kong with all the new facilities come through West Kowloon, for example, M+ and the Palace Museum and so forth. We've got people coming in from overseas, we've got exhibitions coming in, and we've got all sorts of fantastic local talent as well. So we're gathering all of these people together and looking at how the creative industries actually enriches our cultural diversity and also provides a massive amount of opportunity for economic development. It's the same in sporting as well. So sporting activities is not soft power in any way, shape or form, but we see it very much as a very key and critical part of our economic imperative going forward.
Right. What are some of things that you personally try to instill as the chair of, during your tenure as a chair of the Chamber? Is there any particular topics or influence that you try to focus on?
I think it's about engaging with everybody as far as possible, and also being inclusive. So trying to bring a lot more people to go out and talk to wider community groups. It's about engaging with the wider network outside of Hong Kong and going into the UK, for example, and within the diaspora to talk to them about these are great places and great opportunities that we have here in Hong Kong and in the Greater Bay Area. So come and have a look and return to see what we can do to work together. It's also a very good opportunity for, in my view, to try to get youngsters to come back, because I came here as a graduate, which wasn't very long ago. And it has to be said, I had the most fantastic experience and I got the most amazing experiences. And when I talk to the young colleagues in the Future Leaders Committee, they tell me similar stories to what I experienced myself. So things change in terms of the years, but they don't change in terms of the way that we engage with the people and the places that we love.
Yeah, and that's something that I feel like most cities in the world try to tackle, which is how to bring the youngsters back, how to engage with the young entrepreneurial talent pool. But I understand also that you emphasize a lot on empowering women and the significant roles that they can play in the professional field, and to how to keep increasing and enhancing that. So can you talk about how far society has come, specifically in Hong Kong, and what more can be done to help create more channels and more opportunities for them?
Well, perhaps I should say you should come and hear me speak tomorrow morning at the RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors Conference, because I'm talking about women in construction and so forth. But one of the things that I would say is that it's not just about women in the society and in the engineering profession or in infrastructure profession. Diversity and inclusivity comes in so many different forms and fashions. And I think what we need to do, if we need anything to learn from the pandemic, it is to understand that the pandemic changed the way many people thought about their careers. Many people thought very differently about how they actually work, how they engage with work, and how they engage with employers and so forth. So I think one of the things that we really need to focus on, not just about gender and so forth, but we need to focus on how to engage in a different way. very interesting times. And we've also got machine learning, AI, all these technology.
And all of them.
Absolutely. So all of these different aspects need to be thought about in terms of how we actually engage and we empower people going forward. So a lot of it is about empowerment. A lot of it is about recognising that quiet voices are also quite powerful voices. A lot of it is around thinking that we need to actually understand what people can contribute and allow them to be able to contribute as well, and not just dismiss them because they might be quiet or they might be not necessarily the most experienced of people. They still have a voice, they still have an idea, they still have something to contribute. So let's hear from
It's
people.
interesting what you just said about the idea that we need to restructure everything, the system, and how we think about things and how we go about doing it. Would you say a lot of that is also listening to the younger voice and
of course.
getting their input and getting, especially a lot of times, different sectors, and it's hard to change things. It's usually the gatekeepers on top, or the old guard. So would you say that's something that we need to do, is get their voice on the table more and hear them out more?
We absolutely have to hear all the voices, but I don't actually think it's very difficult, because when I took over the current role that I'm in, I looked and I appointed very much younger colleagues to join me in the leadership team. These were people who might otherwise not have been thought to have as much experience as they should have had for that role, but actually I gave them a chance. And I'm super proud of them, and I'm really, really pleased. It doesn't apply to every single person, but we have to just be forgetting the old way of doing things, which is you have to work for 60 years before you can get to this position or that position. Give people a chance. I also do remember very clearly, when I came here as a graduate, I knew very, very little. I hadn't worked in a corporate environment except for summer jobs and so forth. And I was given really big opportunities. So Hong Kong gave me lots of opportunities. And from that perspective, I always think back and think, actually, what was I allowed to do when I was?
So looking back at it, what were some watershed moments for you personally that helped propel you or make you get on your path of where you are today?
I had some very good mentors who gave me a chance. They also gave me a very safe platform, so that they gave me lots of opportunities to get out there and do things, and also asked me, would you do this? And I always said yes. And the key point was that I knew that I had to try my best. If I tried my best and I couldn't do it, somebody would always come along and help me. But actually, that was a very rare occurrence, because many a time you're given an opportunity and you do find a way to work. So I think the watershed moment was being given the opportunities and a safe platform.
So on that note, what advice would you give to the younger women out there right now as they try and navigate themselves in this city and given everything that's going on?
Take opportunities, believe in yourself. Because you have a quiet voice, or because you might be less prominent or dominant in a communication style, or in a number of people, or you might be a minority in terms of a number of people in a room, don't be the one to hide in the corner and do nothing. Find a way to make your voice heard, but do it in a respectful manner. And be proactive as well. And also be very curious, because curiosity is a great trait for any profession, but particularly the one that I'm in. Being curious means that you actually go and try to solve problems. That's what we're here for. We're trying to solve problems, we're trying to create solutions. And if you're curious, you go out there and you find opportunities to deliver projects. And if you're looking at projects, I would say that if you look at any project, it doesn't matter whether it's big, small, or whether it's difficult or easy, you'll learn something from it. So learn well, think what you have learned, work as a team, because teams are incredibly important. Don't think that you are so important that you don't need advice from other people. Take advice, listen to other people, and then collectively pull together and take these opportunities, seize the moment.
Dr. Anne Kerr, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you very much indeed.
That's all for this week. I'll see you same time next week. Goodbye.